The DOcast. People doing the thinkable.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the DOcast. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm with a very special guest. My name is Richard Hanley. I started up a food company about 8 months ago and a blog where I try to document my experiments. The DOcast is a podcast where about once or twice a month I get together with amazing people who inspire me and talk about how they got started and where they're going and how you can learn from them, the doers of the world. We have... With that first, I'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Hanley's Foods, Louisiana-inspired, natural, fresh foods. Got to get yourself plugged there. We're currently in the process of manufacturing our salad dressing with the co-packer, as it's just selling out before we can make it. And we've already handmade over 20,000 bottles with just a pair of hands and a lot of help from family and friends. So I can't wait till we get this, our production stocked up, and I can just hop in the car and start pitching it to all the stores and getting it out further. We currently have our sensation salad dressing in all the mom and pop shops in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or you can find it online at hanleysfoods.com. And you can enter on, just for you guys, coupon code the DOcast at checkout to get $4 off your next order. And another hat tip, I like to thank Startup Weekend. Startup Weekend is a 54-hour event in Baton Rouge where developers, coders, designers, marketers, product managers, startup enthusiasts all come together to share ideas, build teams, products, and literally create a whole startup in one weekend. And this is happening right here in Baton Rouge during August 16th through 18th at Louisiana Technology Park. You can go check it out at batonrouge.startupweekend.org. And just for you guys, if you enter in the coupon code DOcast, you get $35 off whenever you register. So check out these deals. Be sure to head over to thedocast.net. All right. Now, I would love to introduce our guest on the show, Holly Clegg. For college, she came down to New Orleans to go to Tulane and absolutely fell in love with Louisiana's culture and cuisine. She's been dubbed as the Queen of Quick with her best-selling Trim and Terrific books series, selling over 1 million books in the last 20 years. And she's written 14 books, worked with Wal-Mart on their great value brands. She's with the American Diabetes Association and has been featured on QVC, NBC, Fox News. Today I'm sitting down with her at her lovely house right here in Baton Rouge to talk about her story, business, and books. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Holly Clegg. How are you?
Quite an introduction, thank you.
Very highly impressed, especially to have someone like that right here in our hometown in Baton Rouge, which brings me actually to a great question. Is so you came down to New Orleans to go to Tulane, but what brought you to Baton Rouge from that point?
My husband of 34 years. I was a senior at Newcomb and he was a senior at Tulane Law School. So being from Fort Worth originally, I moved here and I always said I raised Cajun babies with Texas accents. Pick out that little bit of Texas, but truly, anywhere on television, nationally or whatever, I use Louisiana and say I'm from Louisiana, except when I'm doing TV in Fort Worth and Dallas.
Yeah,
then
you're all Texas.
Girl.
That's right, with the Southern twist.
Absolutely.
Right. So going back to Fort Worth, where did you grow up? Did you have a very Southern style of growing up, always helping out mom in the kitchen, or is that something that you discovered later in life?
No, I remember sort of what defines my love for food. We went to this with my mother's friends when I was probably, 7, 8, 9, whatever, how old I was. We went to these cabins with all our friends, and I remember getting upset because we didn't get all the food in our cabin. So my love for food, or love to eat, I think was always what was the impetus of loving to cook. But I've always cooked. I mean, from when I was in high school, I did catering for desserts, and I did some for restaurants locally. When I went to New Orleans, I took cooking classes with Miriam Guidros, who was a well-known cookbook author chef of her time in New Orleans. I went to the Cordon Bleu cooking school after I graduated from college.
Wow, that's a big deal.
And traveled around and did, some schools in France as well. But I never talk about that because I'm the antithesis, 30-minute easy recipes.
Sure.
But at one
That's the
point,
brand.
I was the queen of whipping cream and butter. I was
That's right.
I'd spend hours
That's
cooking
London.
anything. And
Right.
So, no, I've always loved to cook. It's always been a passion.
That's wonderful. So with catering, when you were doing that when you were young, did you have any kind of or you're just, let me try something out, I have a few ideas, and just kind of scheduled events? Did you have like a little team, or did you join someone else's team?
No, it was really nice. My parents, I remember, remodeled their kitchen. So they probably paid for the ingredients, and I got all the profits. So it was a good deal back
Can't
then.
beat that.
But when I moved to Baton Rouge, right when my first child was born, I started doing catering as well. After I quit work, I catered in Baton Rouge for a couple of years, and which is hard work, and you have weekends.
It is, yeah.
And you're cooking like, the little you're testing with recipes, imagine, it was on a small scale, but I think everything I've done has always sort of been, and I say my Holly world, where I want to more or less control what I do.
Right. So the brand Trimmin' Terrific, what defines that? So when you put together, let's say, a Southern classic, a gumbo, what's the Trimmin' Terrific version of that? What do you look for?
Well, first of all, I have to say where Trimmin' Terrific came from.
Okay.
Back in 1993, I was working with Maison Blanche and Gottschalk's prior, and did cookbooks on a very local level, and they were bought out by Mercantile, which I ended up being their corporate spokesperson of like 170 stores, but they didn't want the cookbook business. And it was around that time I started hearing about oat bran and eating healthy, and I really was ahead of my time. I felt there was a correlation with what you eat and your diet and your health, and people really didn't see that. So I wanted to write a cookbook that could show you that good food could be good for you.
Not just
so
rice cakes and
Yeah,
stuff like
exactly,
that. I remember
exactly.
that 93, 95 era. When,
Perfect.
Right,
You got it. And I love food. Remember, I have a passion. I eat probably more than most people think. I know that I do. So I wanted something that meant good food that was good for you, not a negative connotation. I hate the 4-letter word diet.
Right.
So Trimmin' Terrific was born, and it came out in 1993. And my first book was A Trimmin' Terrific Louisiana Kitchen. And the only reason that book isn't in print was because it was dated. I still get requests sometimes that I send my money back or whatever.
Wow.
Because it had, we didn't know what we know now. And if I'd have been as market savvy as Rachel Ray, I was doing 30-minute meals back then too. I just wasn't quite on top of it like she was. Or I didn't have Oprah, maybe that's it. So Trimmin' Terrific is exactly what it means. I trim the recipe down and keep it terrific.
Like you look for like butter and margarine replaced with maybe like an olive oil, or?
Yeah, well, like a gumbo, for instance,
Okay.
is what I'm using as an example. In my Gulf Coast favorites, there's a chicken and sausage gumbo, and how I would make that, make it Trimmin' Terrific is, instead of using a roux of a half a cup of oil and a half a cup of flour, I brown the flour in an oven, and use that brown flour, which gives it that nutty flavor and also thickens it. And instead of probably andouille sausage, I use a reduced fat, some sort of sausage. And my philosophy is, if you want a chocolate cake, eat it out of my books. It might not fit into my diabetic book, but it's still so much better for you.
Yeah, compared to what's out there, I could imagine. So with that, because with the food company, I'm in the food business, and so I research and analyze everything. One big corporate was sodium benzoate, which was a preservative that I was told to add into in order to get the green light at LSU to be able to prove it, because they were on the fence about letting me go with it. And the vinegar and the lemon had brought the pH low enough where it could preserve naturally for a long time. But just to be safe, they wanted me to put the stuff in. So I've been doing a lot of research on basically, if it's an ingredient that I've never heard of, I make myself familiar with it. And like one of the things that I've seen, and it kind of drives me crazy, it's almost everything that's diets or labeled the word diets has just a ton of chemicals. Like I just didn't know what your take is like on aspartame or chemicals like that.
Well, you sound like you're into chemistry and a science project. I'm not that technical, Richard. I hate to say. I am probably the most mainstream.
I was going to say, with diet, do you look for, like, for example, Diet Coke, or I'm trying to think of a better example, or do you look for more of something that's just kind of lower fatter, that's not replaced with the word diet?
Well, all the above to some extent, because you remember when sugar-free came out, everybody,
It's crazy.
they ate sugar-free candy, or they ate low-fat candy, or low-fat items, and they bought everything low-fat, but they still are getting the calories.
Right.
So just because you eat sugar-free, low-fat, gluten-free doesn't mean you're going to waste away and become nothing, and that's a diet. I'm not about diets, and I'm very unusual, and there's really sort of my own niche. I'm very mainstream. So in my books, I'm not calling for whole wheat flour. I'm not calling for brown rice, whole wheat pasta. I don't call for any of that, because I feel my goal is to hold the average person's hand
Right.
and sort of steer them and say, look what you can make. It's more, cooking at home is healthy.
And I love it. I've seen that. I've watched a ton of your videos lately to catch up on everything, and people would ask, so yeah, white rice, brown rice, like whatever you have in the pantry.
Absolutely. Now,
I love it. But yeah, whatever you got.
Yeah,
you know?
but I will tell you this: in 1 cup of rice, there's less than 1 gram of fiber in white rice, and there's 3.5 grams of fiber in brown rice.
Interesting.
So it's an
Yeah.
easy transition to make. I give my husband gumbo with brown rice a lot of times. He doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And it's easy. They have instant brown rice, everything. So, yeah, I think that's better for you. But if you start putting all these stipulations in a book, what does it become? It becomes a diet book.
Right.
And I am mainstream across the board. And in fact, people go, oh, I guess you have to go to Whole Foods to find all your ingredients. And I said, no, you wouldn't find my ingredients in Whole Foods.
Right.
One-stop shopping. And that's why Wal-Mart was attractive to me, because I'm affordable, easy, every day, and of course Southern, But
And I love how you introduced or worked with frozen vegetables, because I think the frozen vegetables are great. You probably get more nutrition out of frozen vegetables than you can from fresh vegetables, because if you think about it, a lot of them are come from California or Washington, or just or even another country, Mexico or Quebec, wherever. They're flown and drove and shipped in. And then they're picked really early, and they're sitting on a truck or a plane for many days, and then they're sitting there, slowly kind of becoming ripe. Versus if you get like green beans or something like that that's frozen, those are traditionally picked and then flash frozen, so they're super fresh.
So you want to know why I do frozen vegetables?
Okay.
Because they're more convenient. So those are all great reasons, but I'm not looking at my mind works,
Queen
or
of
it's
quick.
learned to work, right, because if I put fresh in something, or you have to do something, here's my motto: fresh plus convenience equals homemade.
Yeah.
You get some kind of convenience item, you saute some fresh ingredients with it, and it's homemade. So if you see, shopping seasonal is what you want to do, because you get your best bang for your buck. The fruits and vegetables are at their height of flavor, and they're better priced. But it's more important for me to tell you to make a peach cobbler using frozen peaches than fresh peach soup, because as soon as they see you have to peel all these peaches and do them, they're gone, done. So again, my goal is, I guess, primary to get you cooking, to show you that you could cook a healthier meal in 30 minutes, and it's going to be healthier, number one.
Sure.
There's so much sodium when you eat out, so much hidden fats, and it's just better for you. You can control what you eat.
Absolutely. Like 2 years ago, I wanted a challenge with a buddy of mine, and we did, I think it was a 60-day fast food fast. And so for 60 days, we were not, and at this point I was 200 pounds. I lost about 50 pounds from that time.
Goodness, and you're so trim and terrific now.
But yeah, and one of the things, I did eat a lot of fast food. And so what the deal was, fast food fast for 2 months. And yeah, no Subway, no nothing. But in that 2 months period, I cooked more than I've ever cooked in my entire life. As a matter of fact, that's when I spawned my first recipe for a sensation salad.
There you go. See what that did?
Right. But yeah, it completely changed my life. When you cook at home, you know what's exactly in that bowl on that plate. When you go out to eat, or when you get something through a window, God knows where that came from, or what they did to it, or what's in it.
My youngest daughter never ate a fast food burger, and she was going with some friends to Florida once, and she said, they're stopping to get. And my middle daughter, who I call my second child, she said, it wasn't a conscious decision that you're not going to eat fast food, but she says she remembers me saying, she goes, I want a hamburger. So, I'd say, okay, we'll stop at the grocery store, pick up some ground meat, go home and make it. So it wasn't like, oh, you're not eating fast food because it's not good for you. That's just how I thought. And I still do this today. I would come home, and everybody listens, it's a great tip. I get ground meat, make it into little hamburger patties, wrap it in saran wrap, and put it in freezer Ziploc bags. So if I want a hamburger at any
Pop it
time,
out
you
the
just
freezer.
pull it out, or even if you want to turn it into pizza sauce or whatever, you have it always. And a tip, here's sort of where you're coming from. What's healthy or what's not? Okay, I like to eat meat. People would say you shouldn't eat meat. Well, iron is actually better absorbed from meat than non. Best way to absorb it. But always look for your cuts of meat that in a loin and around. Those are your leanest cuts. So that's sort of how I make it trim and terrific. You can eat meat, but let's eat, pork
Let's look for the
tenderloin,
better ones,
sirloin,
right.
and those are your leaner cuts of meat.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that is a great tip. So so that's definitely the terrific side of it. So with the trim side, what kind of got you into diets? I mean, you have books like the arthritis, cancer. What was your experience? What was your inspiration to write those books?
Well, the cancer book, Gerald Militello, who's a local oncologist, we had kids the same age, and he approached me because I had this Trim and Terrific series. He said,
You already had about like 3 or 4 books?
Oh, yeah,
in
I probably had 10 books, I mean, this
yeah,
was...
by the way, she's
this
written
was in,
14 books, amazing. Definitely want to talk about writing and the book process a little bit more, but yeah, curious what got you in.
Well, this is like in 2001. I probably was still doing my books with Running Press at the time. And he said the most often question he's asked is, when somebody's coming in, he's an oncologist, is what can you eat? And he said, so Holly, would you write a book on what people could eat when they're going through treatment? I said, no. I have no desire to do that, Gerald. I go on TV, I'm fun, life is easy, I have no desire. But I'm one of these that I always do my research and homework. So I went to try to find everything I could find on cancer and diet. And there wasn't anything out there unless you were a physician to be able to understand it. And then, unfortunately...
Way too complex.
Yeah, I tell my daddy, he's like he wants to be in my limelight because he had larynx cancer. He was diagnosed during the time, so it became very personal. And
Right.
we tested a lot of the sore mouth recipes on him, books dedicated to him. So that's how that book came about, and it's been my best-selling cookbook. I do a lot of special sales on that as well. And the difference is, though, it's my trim and terrific recipes divided into side effects. So there are better foods that are tolerated and ease the symptoms while you're going through treatment. We were the first book out there. There's preventative, don't eat this and that. This is while you're undergoing treatment. And it's my easy everyday recipes. Every now and then I get somebody, no offense, from California saying there's sugar in this book or there's white flour.
Sure.
Well, not everybody can afford something special. And why should you feel different because you have cancer? So you could take the cancer off the cover, and because there's just a very few medicinal type recipes, and the whole family can enjoy it.
Sure.
So that sort of started it. And it's, it is my most rewarding book because cancer
Changes lives.
Well, yeah, cancer
so personal.
It's crisis. Cancer is crisis, and it's such a challenging time. In fact, about 6 months later, Betty Crocker came out with a book like Cooking with Cancer, exactly like ours. And I was like, oh my
Come
God.
on,
But
Betty.
that was sort of a compliment. Okay, move
Yeah.
over, Betty.
That's awesome. But if you think about it too, I mean, the hospital food, I don't get it. Same thing with schools. When you're in a hospital at a time where your body is thriving, nutrients to heal itself, they give you like sloppy joes and 6 months old macaroni,
Well, I'm hoping to change that because I'm working with Our Lady of Lake Hospital doing some menu consulting. We're getting ready to expand the program.
Oh, that's so amazing.
So
I think that right there I believe in nutrition over medicine in many ways.
yeah,
so.
and I mean, it's giving you some healthier options. And it was such a nice compliment. They said when people see it's a Holly Clegg Trim and Terrific recipe, they know it's healthier for you and they know it's good.
Yeah.
Where if you just see healthy, you might, so
Exactly,
I
you
love that.
might
I
not
love
be
that.
attracted.
That's what my goal is. Healthy equates with good. It's trim and terrific. So hopefully in X amount of time, everybody's going to go, well, let's go to Our Lady Lake Cafeteria and get a good lunch. I don't
would be
know.
pretty awesome.
I might have to be there a little while to do that. But, really that I'm thrilled. That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And, hopefully make a difference in that.
I think that can make a huge impact, and I commend you for that. That's amazing to do that and I think that one thing that if I ever become or have any kind of following as well, I would like to do the same thing with schools. School lunches.
Absolutely.
I think they're almost the same thing. They're force fed 2,000 to 3,000 of poor nutrient calories.
They're getting better. They are getting
Right.
better, but it is still, you're right. My diabetic book, how that came about is my grandmother had diabetes, and I distinctly remember her, this plain chicken breast, broccoli, and as I told you, I love to eat, and it was a big fear of mine that I was going to have diabetes. In fact, when I was with different publishing houses running press, said, "You have all the diabetic exchanges in your cookbooks. This is, from first book on, that was important to me. Do you have diabetes?" I said, "No, I don't." But I remember my grandmother, and I knew it was
Right.
important. So when the American Diabetes approached me and they said, "We'd like to partner with you, Holly, for your Trim and Terrific series," I was like, wow, this is really cool, because that was important to me, and to be, get the stamp of approval from the ADA. And it was really sort of
Huge.
funny. Not funny at the time, but all my recipes will say a serving size. It'll say maybe serve 6 to 8 servings. And I told them that. And they said, "That's no problem. You don't have to, have it exact. That's fine."
Yeah.
So I guess the dietitians and editors, you had to turn it in. They came back. They said, "We can't do this. We have to know how many cups. Is it 6 1/2 cup servings?" I redid 100 recipes.
Wow.
Measuring. In fact, my daughter and
So did you have to go back and make?
Yeah, I went back and make and tried. I had my mother testing some, just measuring them out. So my daughter, Courtney, always gets so mad at me. She goes, "I hate that you have to measure everything before we could eat
I
it."
feel bad because I had a few that I had to do for the paper, and how many people does this serve? I'm like, four. I put a dash, 4 to 6.
Yeah, of course. And there are
I don't know.
recipes sometimes, but 95% of the time, before I serve them, wait, let me measure it, and put how many cups it does, and
Yeah.
then we could figure it out. So, but that's very important for people that are diabetics, and 8% of our population has diabetes. 6.2 million people are unaware they have
know.
diabetes, and 90 to 95% of all diabetics are type 2 diabetics, which can be controlled by weight and
Obesity.
exercise. So the diabetic book is important, but I think what I learned, and I've hoped to spread this word, there's no magical diabetes diet. It's just the healthiest way to eat. So when Kitchen 101 came out, I decided to put, because I cooked a little healthier, since the diabetic book, because then they could only have so much saturated fat, so much cholesterol, so much sodium. But in the Kitchen 101 book, I put a D to indicate all diabetic-friendly recipes through the
Oh,
book.
nice.
It's the first time this has been done, started to make diabetic cooking mainstream. So you want a lasagna? Well, here, I open this up.
Gluten-free, vegan, diabetic. It's just one
Well,
of
yeah.
you're just trying to get
I'm
it there
trying
as
to-
a.
Yeah, and in my new arthritis book, I did include diabetic and gluten-free, just to
Right.
help identify. But so if you want to, if you have heart disease or cardiac, anything like that, or people say, "What is your healthiest book?" I always tell them like Kitchen 101 because it has a great variety, but
Sure.
probably I should count how many of the recipes are diabetic friendly. There's a lot of them.
So
Good
when it comes
percentage.
to like sugars and stuff, do you just stay away from it, or do you try to do like a stevia or like a sugar in the raw or anything like that?
No, I have a bad sweet tooth. In fact, in my arthritis book,
Got a few sweets in here.
there's a chapter that said, because I have a sweet tooth and I try to make it more, you can use less sugar in most bread recipes or cookies, so I try to cut down on the sugar. When I did the book with the ADA, they said you do not have to use artificial sweetener. Everybody knows how to make it, round it out. So no, I don't use any artificial sweetener.
Right. Yeah, and I'm looking at your book right now, Kitchen 101. It's my wife loves it. She's thankfully signed it for my daughter, which thank you so much for that. She loves that. She has another book signed for her. So she loves to come in the kitchen and help me cook. My wife cooked your crab meat brie. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It was so
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
It's
no,
good
that-
stuff. So yeah, I
What
definitely
could be
do love
bad
your
with
books.
crab
but
meat and brie in it?
I
mean,
know,
really,
right?
that's
You can't go
cheating.
wrong.
And for instance, that recipe, I'm not looking at it. I think it's a spinach crab meat brie recipe, and
Get it right here. Let's see.
but there's less brie in it. Now that
Right, so it looks appealing, but you have your balance. You're like, okay, if
Exactly.
we ease up on the cheese.
Now, it might
and-
not fit into my diabetic recipes,
Sure.
guidelines, but it's still so much better for you. So if you want a piece of cheesecake, if you go eat it out, it's probably 25 grams. Mine might have 5 grams. So there are
Still tastes
variations.
amazing.
Still tastes. Now, if you put the two next to each other, you probably can't tell the difference. But by the same token, when I go to a restaurant, Richard, I put butter on my bread. I eat dessert.
Yeah.
I want to appreciate what the chef has done. So I'm not one of those that says I want some plain broiled fish with nothing on it. In fact, the more stuff, the better.
That's right, little crunchies and stuff. So how important is, good quality food? Like when you go to restaurants, and you don't know what they got going on back there. So do you look for some when you go out to restaurants, or?
I don't eat fast food, but pretty much anything else. I don't usually do the chains unless they're a high quality chain. And you're not going to believe this, but I'm probably the easiest person to please. Unfortunately, I
Me
like
too.
everything.
My wife loves it. I'm like, it's fine, burnt, crispy. That's
Yeah,
good.
me too. I have a thing with toaster ovens. My kids know I cannot cook in a toaster oven. I always burn something. I don't know what the timing, but I was toasting some bread for my husband, and I love French bread, and I ate the burnt part. Yeah, I said, oh, well, I'll eat the overdone. So I'm just so mainstream, and that's what I think's so different. So no, I'll go eat out anywhere. I'm pretty open to it. And just as I cook, you could take the disease, and we only got through diabetes, but you could take it off the cover, and there's lasagna, but lasagna, lots of Louisiana recipes, are made healthier. That's what the Gulf Coast Favorites is wonderful for that. All I wish I could get everybody that was making bread pudding, crawfish etouffee, gumbo, crab meat au gratin, on and on, to make those recipes from my Gulf Coast Favorites. It's just so much better for you, and I promise you
I'll check for that one out. Yeah, we love
I will send it home
stuff
with
like
you.
that.
Yeah,
well, thanks so much. I really appreciate that.
No, but really, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to change what you eat. You just change how you
make it.
prepare it. I could go around a room when I'm speaking, a keynote speaker, say, everybody tell me their favorite recipe. It'll be in one of my books.
Yeah.
Unless it's like liver. I don't eat liver. So
Yeah.
if I don't cook it, I don't put it in my book.
My wife eats that. I don't know how she does
I
that.
don't like that.
Yeah. So speaking of books, I'd love to get into this. I personally want to write a book one day, but obviously people who write books have to do something. So I haven't done anything quite yet. But so for the person out there who is trying to, let's say they have a few ideas, they're getting into culinary and they want to try to share their recipes with someone. What would you say to someone like that who has a few recipes and maybe wants to write their own book?
Well, I get calls around the country, and it's sort of my way of giving back. I think it's easier today to be self-published, as I do, or maybe start writing a book and not have it such a big investment. A cookbook, when I'm writing, it's like $40,000, so it's huge.
Imagine. Because it's all color, big pictures.
But being self-published,
Right.
I'm not talking about with a publishing house, but then you just get a royalty. And I'm a business person, really. But what I'd say is everybody wants to write a cookbook, and everybody thinks they could write a cookbook. Writing the cookbook's the easy part. Anybody could write a cookbook. It's marketing it, do you know how many cookbooks are on the shelves now? I'm just like amazed I'm still out there,
Right.
And every celebrity now, every singer,
Has their own.
When I started, there wasn't even a Food Network, so there's so many people. A cooking segment today does not have the impact that it used to make years ago, because
Right.
cooking's everywhere. So marketing your product is what's most important. I have a story that a designer once told me. I always have this mental block on his name. What did I tell you his name was? I said I was going to tell the story. Y'all wouldn't know it anyway. It's like a Ralph Lauren, a Tom Ford,
Okay.
a big name designer. Well, this is years ago, and I was in autographing cookbooks in New Orleans at Maison Blanche, and he was there. He just Bob Mackey. Bob Mackey had a perfume. He was an old. When I was young back then, he was old, so he's probably really old now. But he was there squirting his perfume. And now he came in a limo. He requested white roses everywhere and all these things. So I went up to him. I said, Mr. Mackey, why are you, someone as well-known, established as you, out there, spraying your perfume, He said, I want to tell you something. And Richard, this has been what I have kept in my head all these years. He said to me, no matter how big you are or how big your product is, you have to always market it, or somebody else will come steal the show and take your spot. Okay, if Coke or Budweiser has 75% of the market, they can't quit marketing, because if not, they'll come in. Think about the movie stars. Every time there's a new movie, they might be coming in a limo, but I've been on those early morning shows. They're working hard. They're getting up, promoting their movie.
Doing late nights and then early mornings.
Absolutely. So it's true. It's the marketing, and it can never, ever quit. And now, I mean, my goodness, as we talked about, between all the social media and et cetera, it really
It's
is
so
ongoing.
hard.
It's
Right.
ongoing.
It never stops. I couldn't imagine for someone like you with all your recipes and constantly sharing out on Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, there's a new one every time you turn around.
Yeah,
know.
I like to share recipes, and I had to come up on, that's another, marketing business decision I had to do. If you put all your recipes on the internet, why does anyone want to buy a cookbook? You have to think this through, and people don't buy cookbooks as much as they used to, and all my books are starting to be on ebooks.
But you're planting the seed,
Well-
they're starting to see you kind of as a brand, I think. So
That's exactly.
whenever they go to the bookstore and there's something that they want to get a book one time, and they see your face and they see everything on it, they're already familiar with you and what you represent. So I think it's definitely a lot easier for them to make that decision then.
Well, and also, if someone's going to search for a spinach brie dip,
Right.
if Holly Clegg keeps coming up, when next time they search for a coconut cake, Holly Clegg, maybe they're finally go, who is this Holly Clegg?
Yeah.
So they're going to find the recipes regardless. And so, but it's a different market for everybody. All of our businesses have evolved and have to change with the times.
Right. Or you'll
Yeah.
just be dead in the water.
And I always say that for my age, I'm pretty savvy with the internet, and I always like to stay ahead of the curve because I feel like that's so important.
I think, you have to have that kind of advantage, or you won't succeed. Marketing is definitely everything, and I can relate this in a way to where I'm familiar, where getting up your food idea, your food product on the shelf is not even half the battle. Keeping it on that shelf is the other half.
Yeah.
And there's a reality check that I remember I heard from the guys at Fresh Market, which we're now in Fresh Market. Unfortunately, I haven't even delivered to those guys because we just can't keep it up. I actually had because as part of these interviews, I give gifts, and I was giving Holly my sensation. I didn't even have a bottle. Had to go buy it.
I know, how pitiful is that? Well,
How
that's good and
amateur
bad.
does that look for me?
Well, it's sort of like when I used to go in the bookstores. I was mad when the books were on the shelf and mad when they weren't on the shelf. So which is it? They're selling or they're on the shelf and they're not selling. But you're right, it's half the battle keeping them up there. Someone told me years ago too, I was doing the Phil Donahue show, and that's many years ago as well. And when I was doing it, the books weren't around nationally, carried nationwide, and they were picked up by Barnes and Noble, and somebody said to me, half the battle is getting on the shelf. You can't sell them unless they're
Right.
out there. And that enabled me to get more of a national representation. And then they were out there to sell. So
Right.
with your dressings, the same thing. Unless people see them out there, it doesn't matter. They're not going to sell. How does
Exactly.
anybody know about them?
Exactly.
Or people are impulsive. If they can't find them, what are they going to do? Pick up another bottle of
Right.
something else.
Or they'll
So
grab your competitor. So
That's what I mean,
And that's
yeah.
what they said is the bottom. I want to say it's like the bottom 15. Just the 15, like every 6 months, every 4 months, the bottom 15% of all sales, they just toss it. It goes. It doesn't matter if it's their favorite dressing, hot sauce, barbecue dip, whatever. If it's in that bottom 15, they pull it.
Wow.
And they just constantly make room for something new and
Well, 'cause
fresh. and
look
that's-
how many dressings are. Look how many
I
of
know,
everything there are. It's just
but going back to marketing, it is such an important thing, to get out there and read marketing books, and discover or follow Holly. She's a marketing extraordinaire. She's everywhere.
Yeah, I should
so-
read some marketing books. I think I'm like the School of Hard Knocks, knocking on doors, because I knocked on many a doors. I could tell you stories. Betty Crocker, I mean, these go way back. They had low-fat cake mixes at one point, and I knew I could help create an awareness of these low-fat cake mixes. So I called the side panel of Betty Crocker. It was in, General Mills. Called. Now you have to leave a voice message and hope that someone will call you back. You have those second. They did call me back. Well, long story short, they were going to put my name on the boxes of the Betty Crocker cake mixes, the low-fat mixes, and then they said they changed people around, the brand manager. They said, we don't need Holly Clegg, we have Betty Crocker. So I called, waited 6 months. I said, no, I could help create an awareness of these cake mixes. I know I can. It's going to do good. So ended up, the home ec people there, they said, so I sent up recipes to do a booklet. That was going to go. And they said, they're not working. Well, I've made these recipes 1,000 times. Well, they didn't want Holly Clegg. They have Betty Crocker. So I go up to, which I was like, oh, my God, I'm in General Mills' kitchen. Go up to Minneapolis. They flew me up there. to work with them the recipes. Well, they were like, well, who does your tolerance testing? I went, what's tolerance testing? You know, I give it to my neighbors, you know.
Yeah, for feedback.
But anyway, long story short.
What is that? Is that for feedback? Or?
Tolerance testing is, well, what if it's in a 9x13 pan and it's not too big, or it needs a different size pan? Good question. You know, how do you know what works, or what happens if they do it in a wrong way? Well,
sure.
You have to do it my way. But long story short, I was the first person on the box of Betty Crocker cake mixes. Now, it's like finding Waldo, but it had a place you could, you know, but that's
amazing
myself.
Because exactly, with one of the, I would think, you know, kind of in a way a competitor, one of the biggest, you were able to network, you know, together and make something great together. So that's huge.
Yeah,
that's
I have numerous stories like that. It's like, I'm always going, nobody's going, Holly, where are you knocking on my door? They are more now, definitely. But through the years, you know, people go, how did this happen? I was like, nobody called me. You know, I was calling them. And my husband always says, if the door's half open or a little open, I'm going to push it all the way.
You got to kick it open.
Yeah.
So in marketing, what's one of your biggest tips that you could give to someone, let's say, that wants to make a cookbook or something like that? What's a big tip you can get for them to get their name out?
I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing and believe in it, and be willing to, I mean, as you know, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's always, and
24.
You know, the marketing part about it is you just have to, I mean, I did everything when I started speaking to small book clubs. That's what I've told people. Go around and offer to, you speak to, you know, you get a little talk going. Here's my tip for you today. Get a little talk of some sorts of how you create dressings and make it of interest to the Quota Club, these different clubs, and then I'd sell my books afterwards. And I sort of look at, not for every book sold, still to this day, I don't look at it as every book sold, how much money I'm making. I'm looking at it, that's one more person that has my book that will tell somebody
others,
else about
and that's where it's key.
Yeah, I just spoke to the Bar Association. Of course, my husband's an attorney, and that was a little intimidating, but I got them all. 150 lawyers and judges at the Baton Rouge Bar Association in Perdido. And what I said is everybody got a cookbook. So they bought cookbooks. I discount my cookbooks pretty heavily for different things like that. And everybody got a cookbook. Well, I'm so excited because they'll take it down home with them, and maybe they wouldn't go buy it. Maybe they didn't know. If they try one recipe, I know I can
And
get
someone's
it
like,
home.
wow, how'd you learn how to cook that? Oh, Holly Clegg, saved me with this one. So, well, with books and now the way the times are changing and everything, if you were to start over now, would you, like, because my thing is, you know, ebooks versus physical books, because, all right, here's what you could do. Obviously, you said like $45,000 to get started. If you were to
that's if you're self-publishing. If you're with a publishing house, you'll get some sort of advance, which isn't much, and then you'll get a royalty. Like my diabetic book is with the ADA. I self-publish, Richard, because I know how to. First of all, New York, Barnes & Noble, and all of them are going to always pick up my books.
You have the brand.
Right, I have a brand. So they're going to be picked up as much as they will be, whether I self-publish or it's through a publishing house.
Right.
The publishers don't put you on book tours like I went on these 15-city book tours when, you know,
Jeez.
years ago.
And that's just hopping in a bus? You know,
no, it's flying, and yeah, you know, I mean, it's a good weight loss program.
I thought about actually doing a book tour for salad dressing. Once
You should.
Once it ever takes off, I'm like, hey, look, just get an RV. We'll put all the kids in there on the summer one time and wrap that thing good, and it'll say dressing it up and hop and go to Houston, go to California and Chicago.
You know, I used to do that. I'm getting old and tired, but I did. You know, I
Tour
probably
buses?
have. No, I flew. But I mean, I probably have
Book
good
tours.
relationships with book tours. Yeah, with the top 20 TV stations across the United States, and many of them. If the producers are still there, I could say I'm coming to Denver. I can call them and say I'm coming in town, Philadelphia, and they'll put me on. They know I'm going to give a good segment. And I did a lot of spokesperson work, so it was a good combination. People want cookbooks. I did satellite media tours out in New York. I really won't do those. I went out of retirement once because Pierre at Plus Media, I said, my daughter needs a summer job. I'll come do a satellite media tour if you'll give her a job, and he did.
That's funny.
But,
leverage now. You get leverage.
But you know what? You know why? That's all relationships. And people don't value relationships.
Are everything in business.
They don't value those anymore, and that's one reason I don't have an agent. I probably leave money on the table, and my husband says I always give myself away because it's very hard putting a price tag on yourself.
Right.
But I want to deal with someone. When I was doing work with Teflon, DuPont, they hired me, a crisis management firm out of D.C., hired me when, remember, all the Teflon was bad for you? here's a story about agents and market. And so anyway, they hired me, and they hired this actor to do, and it's still on Teflon's website, you know, and he sort of facilitated the video and had to memorize, and he was great. I mean, he was so much better. He facilitated the video is what he did. Well, then they called, thank God I was in my house, they said, we're going to put you on the Jumbotron. And I'm like, what Jumbotron? You know, I'm surely couldn't be the one in New York. Oh, you know, the one in New York. So I'm like, oh my God, they were going to put us together on the Jumbotron in New York. Well, his agent was so concerned. They told me this. I became friends with him. They told me that his agent was worrying about, he wanted to be flown first class. He wanted all this, blah, 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 blah. So you know what they said? Forget it. We'll just put Holly on there. I had people from Baton Rouge in New York calling and said, we saw you on the Jumbotron.
That's amazing.
And how I market, I've been a national spokesperson for Louisiana Yams for over 15 years. My yams go with me everywhere. On there, I took a sweet potato dish. Yams. Took a sweet potato dish, and on the Jumbotron was my face with a sweet potato dish. So, but think about, that's where agents get in the way.
Right.
And I've seen it happen before, so I'm very big into relationships.
When you do it yourself and you have more of assistance, you know, you have a lot more power. You can react quicker, you can respond, you can obviously have things set up the way that you want it to be. But at the same time, yeah, so do you have assistants to help you with that?
Well, you know, it's so funny. I always go, they go, may I have the accounting department? I go, hold on a minute, please. I'll get it for you. Hello, you know. No,
yeah, one-man band, huh?
I have Lee, who's a dietitian who works for me, who is my right hand, my left hand, every hand. She could be my daughter, my best friend. She just did TV with me a little while ago. She's great, and she's helps me with everything I do. I have somebody that helps sort of part-time. But I returned my own calls. I'm a one-man show. I started out that way.
I was shocked. Because when I called you, I was lost trying to find your house, and I went to go. I put up the email that we had a conversation on, and I saw you had a number at your signature. I'm like that's some like kind of hotline number. Like hello. I'm like, hey, I'm at your house.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, you put your number out there.
I get that all the time. You know.
And same thing with your card. I figured that I was going to get like, you know, this auto reply.
I get that a lot. People go, I can't believe that you answered the phone, and a lot of times,
but that goes right back to marketing.
It is,
you know,
yeah.
That's everything.
Well, I believe in what I say. I love what I do, and I'm passionate about it. And Lee does help me and return some calls. A lot of times questions, but I still do too. And you know, imagine if I'm calling somebody back in Iowa and they're going, oh, this is you, and I'm like, yeah, it's me. You know, so they'll probably tell.
You made me look bad. I have a Magic Jack that goes to a voicemail when I don't answer it. That goes out to like 5 people.
No.
It's like,
and really, I've just let Lee start handling all my speaking engagements, because then it separates me from telling how much I charge as a keynote speaker, and because I hate doing that.
Sure.
So it sort of separates, and then if I don't let her do it, I forget something. So
yeah, and you have someone where you know your schedule very well. Obviously, like, hey, look, you know, this 6 weeks I'll be in Fort Worth, whatever, and doing my thing there. You know, whatever. Another year I'll be in Baton Rouge. So you know, you don't have to keep constantly schedule with other people. One person knows your schedule.
Yeah, no, Lee's great, and I couldn't do without her. And she also gets me. She gets it. You know, that's important that you have somebody that. I mean, I just was so fortunate with her that she gets me. I mean, she gets things back. My daughter worked for me for a little while in between jobs, and she's with PR firms. She got me a PR deck. She heard me talking on the phone one day when somebody called. I was like, oh yeah, I've done this with Teflon. I've done this with Wal-Mart. I've been on this show, or I've done that. You know, she goes, Mom, I cannot believe you don't have a PR deck. And she said she yells at me because she says there's things that I could do that would make my life easier. And this PR deck, in fact, I meant to send it to somebody already. I forgot. I don't think that way. But there are things in marketing that you, as a younger generation, probably can do better than I have, and make it smoother or easier. But
well, it seems like you have a team of young people, because you're always on, you're everywhere. You know, that's what's great. But you got, like you said at the beginning, you know, you got to keep up with the trends, or you'll be dead in the water.
No, I'm very big on that. You know, to keeping up with the trends, and I think a lot of it's on the internet.
It's hard.
So I just got involved with Google Plus and these Hangouts, and I was really excited. I was in New York, and one of Haley's friends showed me how to do Vine. Do you know what Vine is?
See, you're teaching me. I don't even know. I kind of block myself from the internet sometimes.
Well, Vine's just like a 10-second video, but now Facebook,
Okay.
Pinterest, Instagram is doing that too now, and I'm big on Instagram.
So it's like 10-second interview or 10-second just messages, like kind of like tweets, but
Somebody
video.
said that's probably going to go away because Instagram will now let you do those little 10-second or whatever videos.
Yeah, I still don't get how Facebook bought them for $1 billion. I just don't see that.
I know it's very overwhelming, the whole situation, but I mean, you could literally work all the time and never. And then you'll probably get this. Nobody knows what I do. I said when Lee started working for me, I said, Lee, nobody's going to understand what you do. They're going to think you don't work, or they're going to go, oh, how fun it is. I mean, some days when we're cooking, I test every recipe in every book. So
you could definitely tell. I saw our cookbook over there, and there's like stains and coffee and ripped pages and sticky notes. Your cookbooks are your real, actual cookbooks. They're not just a book on the shelf. They're a book that you write and tear. And
I use my own cookbooks when
chili stains on.
My husband will like, can you please make something twice? So because I'm always like I'm wasting time if I'm not testing new recipes.
Sure.
But you see, I do use my own cookbooks.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's great. So. What's, just real quick, and I know we're trying to wrap this up, what's one of the biggest single challenges that you faced when publishing books?
Creating an awareness with the competition out there. I mean, there's just, like I said, writing a book is the easiest part. I will say, and I stopped with diabetes and cancer. My new arthritis book is with the Arthritis Association of Louisiana. Karen Kennedy approached me about writing a book with them, and I'm giving them a portion of their proceeds. They're using it as a fundraiser. So my arthritis book, I'm giving a portion of the proceeds to the Arthritis Association, and that sort of led me to a new area because, honestly, there are so many cookbooks out there. As I said, everybody's written one. Everybody wants to write one, but there isn't anybody that does sort of mainstream chronic diseases that are recipes that you actually can make. So I'm really trying to focus on, these sort of a medical, and with, the healthcare issues coming up, it's preventative, or if you eat healthier, there's going to end up being, rewards. If you don't get diseases, just like to preventing them, as well as when you are diagnosed with some sort of disease, what can you do? When people with arthritis, this is one of the first books out. There's very few on arthritis and food and inflammation that are also my trim and terrific easy 30-minute recipes. It all boils back when you say them. Those are the recipes. So I'm sort of transitioning into that.
So is there more coming down the line?
Oh, my head's spinning. I wish I could. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have tons.
If you had the time, yeah.
Yeah. If I have.
If you had all the time to do one more, or is there one that you really wanted to take on?
I think I want to do pregnancy, since all my daughters and stuff are having
and you're all
babies.
around it?
Well, because there's so many facets that people don't know. When you're nursing, you can't eat certain things, or
there is.
When you're pregnant, and just more of a, again, mainstream in there. There's a lot of books out there that do maybe what I do, but they're so technical, or they're telling you to buy all this special foods that if you do, even if you have the resources to be able to buy them, who's going to eat like that forever? Nobody.
Right.
Then you go back to whatever. So if I could change everybody's eating habits to, eat a little healthier and prepare their food differently, I'm doing my job.
Right. Yeah, and that changes people's lives.
It is, and how fortunate I am.
An amazing, thing to be behind.
I cook. I love to cook. I'm passionate about food, and I'm making a difference, hopefully, in people's lives. I get emails all. I never talk about this, and I guess I should, but I have tons of weight loss stories. People that tell me how much weight they've lost. But I guess because that's not my focus, I'm not writing this book to make you lose weight or help you. I'm doing it to give you energy, to be healthier from the inside out, because there is a correlation with what we eat and all these various diseases. So if you could incorporate better foods and that have, all the more nutritional value with what you're doing. I even say this, okay? Every time you eat a brownie, if you eat strawberries or fruit with it, what are you doing, Richard? You're getting more fruit into your diet.
Technically.
So every time you eat a brownie, you think of Holly. Okay, I need to go eat some fruit. Mm-hmm. So, and then you'll probably eat less brownie because the fruit is higher in fiber and whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of how, it's a little different approach. And I said I live in my Holly world. I pick and choose. Yeah. My aspirations were not to be on the Food Network. That was way too high profile. Been married 34 years. You've heard me brag about my kids, and now these precious grandchildren. And when I'm speaking, I always say, what is success?
I have to say, I hate to cut you off, is those emails that you get, those success stories about people who lost 50 pounds or you saved lives or changed lives. I couldn't imagine the feeling that must make you feel, to get those kind of emails or calls or however they come in about really changing people's lives. I got to say that's an amazing.
And especially since I'm not a physician, I imagine how they feel.
Right.
But I think this is as important as what is success. You're striving to be successful in your business. I always say success is the balance between your personal and your professional life. Rachel Ray might be on every box and everything,
Sure.
but she doesn't have 3 kids. She probably won't be married 34 years. I mean,
right. What are you working for? What is it that you're doing? Yeah,
Right.
You're following your passion. You're doing because you want to, but at the end of the day, what are you doing that for? And if you don't have time to spend with that, whether it's playing basketball, running, spending time with your kids, spending with your family, then you're not doing yourself justice. You're just getting by, So, yeah, you have to find, you always have to have that why. Why am I doing this? What am I doing this
and
for?
all of our balances get tipped. Yours is when you're starting out. Believe me, I miss some things at my kids' school for traveling.
You have, pool.
But then you get pulled back in. That's why I went back to self-publishing, because my kids were young and I was on this long book tour, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this. So it wasn't important enough to me. So that's, people, you have to find what makes you feel successful. And there really isn't it's not like you go, okay, I'm 70% successful, I'm 50, or I'm 100%. Who knows? Everybody's different.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes at the beginning, you have to give it maybe 75% at the beginning, and then in order to get 75% of what it is, why, at the end.
Absolutely.
So you can be able to spend, all right, next 3 months I'm going to be in Dallas or whatever, you're blocking off that time, now you have the power to do that because you've already put in that hard work at the beginning.
Yeah, you're right. I have a brand, and, honestly, what's great about what I do, I can work from anywhere, as long as I have a computer. And
I do it from a phone nowadays, huh?
Yeah, from a
You're
phone.
on the beach in Bahamas.
Right, yeah, you're right. Maybe I
Yeah.
should try that. But as you're going to you'll learn very quickly is when you're your own boss and it's your brand. I am my brand. You're going to be your brand. Your office never closes.
No.
Your door never closes. I mean, what do I do still to this day? If I get up at 5:30, 6:30, whatever time, where do I go? I fix my coffee, go straight to my office. And I probably work until my husband comes home, which could be anywhere.
And that's what I learned is with kids, because, I quit my day job about 9 months ago to do this. My wife wasn't too thrilled. She got a day job, but that has supported me beyond, you could answer. So during the summer, it was my first summer with the kids. And typically, I'd wake up, make their lunches, get them packed, load them up for school, they're off, crunch time the second I get home. And now that was gone. So I had to figure out what am I going to do in the summer. Well, I started waking up at 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. Kids would sleep into about 9:30 sometimes.
You get a lot of work done.
That's my crunch time.
Yeah.
That's right. And so now when the kids wake up out of bed, I don't feel bad. I got 50%, if not more, or if everything of the things I wanted to do for that day done.
Yeah.
And now I can actually spend the time and enjoy my children. So I'd make them breakfast. We'll go outside. We'll go swimming, biking, walking. Go take them out. I have another little thing that I do where I let them play 5-minute boss or 10-minute boss if they're lucky. And I'm like, look, you're the boss for the next 10 minutes. Like,
that's
ice
cute.
cream, and then you go to bed. You go clean my room. Like,
that's
man.
so cute.
And they love it.
Oh, I bet they do.
Yeah.
That's a cute idea, actually. So, no, that's very true. You're your own boss. Your job never stops. Whereas if you work for somebody, you close the door. But when you are your own
punch in and
brand,
punch out, right?
Yeah, when you are your own brand, your mind is always going, always
right.
thinking, and you have to always be thinking what you're doing next or how you're going to market yourself next. Not like, I just did TV, I'm done. Well, you're never done.
Yeah, and so now I have to know before I publish this podcast to make sure I have to tell my sister she handles my online orders. Like, hey, look, it's coming. Just wait, hang on. Because last time we did this, or you helped us out by mentioning on your social network, we had orders from all over the nation.
I have
all over the nation. It was an amazing response.
Well, I have a great following on Facebook.
But as I was trying to get at, you have to be prepared. You can't just.
Oh yeah, no, you
can't
are.
stop.
No,
you have
absolutely.
to think what's going to happen after you go on TV or everything like that.
Absolutely. I could remember somebody calling me years ago too. They said, we're going to be on the Today Show. It was somebody in Texas, in fact, and they said, should we do a special printing of our cookbooks, like 20,000? I went, no, you won't. You'll be lucky if you sell 100, whatever.
Yeah.
People, you have big, broad minds, but, the impact, it does make a difference, and I think people underestimate the value of their local media. Everybody wants to be on the big time.
Honestly,
but
I
you should
did.
respect your own media and your own people. I guarantee there are lots of people in Baton Rouge that have no idea who Holly Clegg is. Lots of people. So
my mom, I told my mom today, I was like, I got another interview with Holly Clegg today. She's like, Holly Clegg? She's like, are you kidding me? And she showed me all of her cookbooks. She loves you.
Oh,
she has a lot
that's
of.
good.
She has her cookbooks for like the last 20 years. So okay, just real quick with local media and how I underestimated. You're talking about the power of local media, and I underestimated that. I did a few TV segments and a few recipes and demos, and when the local newspaper wrote a story about us, it was a 2-page feature story, so I figured we'd get a little bit more press than normal. And I was like, okay, I didn't think anything about that, and so that was actually about the worst time that happened. That's when I went on vacation.
Of course.
The best things happen when you're away from the office. So I told myself I wasn't even bringing a laptop. I'm like, look, I'm going here to relax and unwind. See, the second day that we're on vacation, my phone it completely blew up. It blew up overnight. And every store in Baton Rouge was sold out in one day from this local article. And then obviously the combination of you with the online orders, it was unreal. We had people driving in from Shreveport, from New Orleans, 60, 90, 100 miles to come get our salad dressing, in which it wasn't even in stock. And I felt bad, and I told the store manager to call me like, hey, look, we have a guy from Shreveport here to get your salad dressing. Like, if you could take down his address, I'll send him it free. Because
I've done that before, obviously, you needed to talk to me before you went on vacation. You were never on vacation. You never go without your laptop.
No.
I mean, when you're
lesson learned.
Yeah, when you're your product and it's your brand, you are there always. If you're in Europe, you check your email and sales because you missed one opportunity if it comes to you. There's my lesson for you there.
Right.
I would have said, "What? Oh no, Richard, you're taking that laptop."
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
But I underestimated. And that was a local newspaper. I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh yeah, we've been on TV and been in a few magazines here and there and on TV. We have a little bit. We should be good.
It was a great article. Though Jeremy did a very nice job. So well deserved too.
Thanks so much.
Well deserved. And and I saw you when I first met you. It brings back. Well, what did I say? Bring back memories. What was I doing? I was right next to you, handing out samples. So I'm still doing it. I was thinking.
And I was shocked to see you there. I would figure that it would be someone else. But like you said, I forgot the guy's name. Ralph Lauren, kind of the designer
Bob
guy.
Mackey.
Bob Mackey. You got to get out there, and if it's your brand, you got to. It means a lot to people.
And I don't do, and I might go, I have to go do that, but I always have fun talking to people when I'm there. And it was a new store opening there, and it was a reason. I don't do it every weekend. I probably should do it more than I do, but it's getting out there, and like you there, that's what you have to do. You have to beat those doors down and create an awareness and create the demand. A lot of people go, well, my books don't sell. It's out there. Well, it's up to you to create that demand, to let people know it's out there. So
right, and at first it's scary. It's scary to go out there and start telling people about your idea or your product, but you just got to bite the bullet and do it.
How long did it take you? 1 hour? You're pretty good at it.
What's that?
To bite the bullet and be able to tell everybody.
Yeah,
no,
it took me actually like a year before.
Oh.
Well, before I can finally come up with my idea to get it to where it needs to be, and that was
I'm talking about that. Yeah, out there.
A lot of planning.
No, definitely that part. I'm talking about when you're out, actually at the grocery store talking.
Oh, right.
You're
right.
very, you have a great personality.
I have the Richard Branson motto where he just says, "Screw it, just do it."
Exactly.
And
that's
so
the best
whenever
thing.
I'm scared, and I'm scared a lot, I just screw it, let's do it. And just that's it. The brand my motto is do what's worth doing.
Well, and what someone told me when I'm doing a keynote or something, nobody knows if it's an A delivery, A- delivery, B+. We're hard on ourselves. But the other person, first of all, they're not glued to every word you say anyway, but we put that grade on ourselves that it could be better or whatever. Not everybody. So, most of the time everybody's fine.
Right. It's not.
And you're the authority. They don't know what's going on with the salad dressings, you know. And they
Yeah.
are great dressings.
Thanks so much.
In my barbecue shrimp recipe, it calls for Caesar dressing or whatever, so I used Richard's Sensation dressing.
Oh, thanks
In
so
fact,
much.
I felt sort of bad. I was like, God, I hate to waste it.
Yeah.
I
Now
hauled
you
it
got-
with
now
me
you got
to
a new
Dallas.
bottle.
Yeah, now I got a new bottle. I can't go buy them, though. But I was
Yeah.
in Dallas, and I used it. I just had a little left, and so I just thought, well, I'll throw it in there.
Yeah.
But you've done a great job. It's, all natural ingredients. It's good packaging.
Thank you.
You're behind it. It's a lot of hard work and love and passion, what it takes.
It
so.
takes a lot of that, and I
And
appreciate
support.
you commenting the packaging because it's so simple. It has a little circle label. Yet that little circle label took about 60 hours to make.
Absolutely, nobody knows.
Because I would actually hide it, hack it, go to Winn-Dixie and put it on the shelf and just kind of see if people were to pick it up and take it. I'm like, hey, excuse me, no, this isn't for sale. I was just
No, well,
testing,
that's
and I would explain my
very
story,
smart.
what I'm doing.
Very smart.
Because I learned that I think more than 80% of all decisions made like in the grocery store, at the bookstore, is done right there at the physical place of the sale. Not by media or marketing all the time, but sometimes when they come across something new, they pick it up, they feel it, they look at it, and they then make decisions to purchase it. So
Makes
if it
sense.
feels good, it looks good, they might be more compelled to try it versus someone who, if it's just in plastic, has a generic label slapped on there, it just kind of gives it, I think, more
Well,
the edge,
and you
the
have
whole packaging.
You have such a good Louisiana feel. Sensation dressing has been, around the recipes, and now with your strawberry,
Strawberry,
you're
yeah.
taking advantage of our wonderful, luscious Louisiana berries. So, there's a reasoning behind. You're not just throwing out a bunch of dressings.
Right.
The labor of love and your thought process is behind it all.
Right, and yeah, there's one I want to try out too. I know this is going to be official, so I guess maybe I can delete this later, is a New Orleans Desire, and that's going to be like a chocolate balsamic or something like that. So,
Well,
I don't
but
know.
they do over fruit. A lot of people use
Right.
balsamic over fruit, so that makes sense.
I tried it. It doesn't have I don't want to call it a chocolate because chocolate kind of turns away from it. It's
does.
basically more of a balsamic, a creamy balsamic, that I put cocoa in there to give it just a little.
Maybe it's like a
it
sweet
tastes,
balsamic or
yeah.
something.
It's not too sweet. It's more of on the balsamic side. But
have to think
I'll
of
have to
it.
send you a test batch. Well, because we normally have salad parties, so I'll have to invite you to one of those. And my brother-in-law and my sister lives in Dallas, so yeah, maybe next time I'm in town we can have a salad party or something with our new Desire. So let me ask you though, outside the kitchen, and the cooking and the marketing and the media, what does Holly like to do for fun?
I cook. Honestly, if I would be depressed, I could get in my kitchen, and I don't even have the TV on. I cook. I like to read. I do read. I probably need to learn how to relax. I lost that ability a long time ago, and if I'm on an airplane, I'm working on my computer. There's always so much to do. So the answer to that question is I need to learn to relax. But I do go to my exercise classes with my friends. That's
There you go.
probably something I do there, but we talk through the whole class. My friend and I.
Social hour?
Yeah, it's my social hour,
Yeah.
And that's one thing probably I do that I want to do.
Right.
And I've always done that.
Yeah, I love going out. When like running, I got into running and marathoning, and I go for long runs, and I love it. Like going around the lakes, it's just a great way just to actually clear your mind because when I go, I don't bring my phone or anything, and so it's just me and nature.
That's the only time you're without your phone
Right,
now.
right. And
I'm going to check them like on Christmas Day. And
Richard.
Richard,
Yeah.
are you accessible? I need some dressing. See if you're on it.
You always got to be on it. You're absolutely right.
No, that's my lesson to you today.
Yeah, definitely. So that's really good. And I want to ask you a question I typically ask everyone. What's a book, a song, and a quote you love?
A book. I'm not real good at all these things. I'm
Doesn't
really
have
not.
to be. It could
yeah,
be a
I'm trying to
cookbook.
think of a book. Probably my favorite book that I've ever read is, you're not going to believe this, it's, I made my son read, it's about 1,000 pages, it's about the CIA. I love CIA movies, anything. I can't think of the name, but it's the history of the CIA. That would be my favorite book. And song, I'm not a real music person. Something mellow, and I like the older songs better. And a quote, oh gosh, I should probably know 1,000 of those. I quote my mother all the time. And I'm trying to think what quote, and then I guess the best compliment, I've heard my kids say what I say. So there usually would be quotes about probably values in raising life. I'm trying to think of what I, can't even think of a quote right now. I'm trying to think all the quotes.
You could
of my
always email
mother.
me later, and we'll
All
add
the
it on
quotes.
there.
In fact, my friend says I should write a book of Ruthisms, all the things my mother says, because I'm using them all the time.
Have you seen that book? It's called,
What is- I can't
might have
think
to
of
bleep
what-
this out, Shit My Dad Says. Or it's a book I saw in Barnes & Noble, and it's just, it's a guy who wrote a book about, but it's labeled that way, Shit My Dad Says.
Yeah.
And it's just,
That's
with
cute.
a whole bunch of just random things
Probably
from
a
his
great
dad.
book, probably
It's
a
a
great
bestseller,
book.
New York Times bestseller, actually.
Yeah,
I was surprised to find out.
I'm trying to think what I would, a quote. I've had a fried brain today with everything going on.
Yeah, no
Too
worries.
many-
You can, we put up the links and the topics and the quotes online.
No, I'm mad. I'm trying to think of but like I said, I think I've been in too many places in my head in one day.
Yeah.
What do I tell my kids? But it's not going to be a kind of quote that people care about. It'd be like.
Holly quote.
it'd
What's
be
a
like,
Holly quote in Holly World?
Yeah, a Holly World quote. I always tell everybody, to do the best you can be. Always be the best you can be. And, my kids are nice people. I think that's most important in life, that you're a nice person.
Right.
And what goes around comes around. There we go.
That's right. The golden rule.
The golden rule. I'm sort of quirky with all those things.
Hey, that's like on my poster. That's what it says at the very
Yeah,
bottom.
you're
Be nice and laugh every day, because, and I'm always telling my oldest daughter that is just, whatever situation you're in, whether she took that or this, you got in a fight with your sister or whatever the problem is, just try to be the better person. Just be nice,
Yeah, exactly. It'll go a long way. Of course, when your kid's that age, it doesn't make as much sense as mine that are your age. So.
Right. Yeah. So okay, what's next for you, and where can people find you?
Well, you can always find me. Join my Facebook fan page. Always go to my fan page. I have a monthly menu newsletter. I encourage everybody to go to my website.
I'm gonna check that out. I didn't see that.
Yeah, you have to sign up for my monthly menu newsletter on my website. It'll tell you to sign up, but it's fun tips, recipes, what's going on every month. A good following with that, and you can always find my books online anywhere. I do not sell my books from my website, but they're in any bookstore nationwide. If they don't have them, then get them. And you have to use my book, or I'll come steal it back.
Oh, it will get used. Or
And the more you.
I was kind of embarrassed to bring it because it was already banged up a little bit.
love
But
dirty
now that I
books.
saw your book, I was like, all right, don't feel
Hey,
too
don't you
bad.
know that? I love dirty
Yeah,
books.
that means that they're used. That's right. So, well, great. Thank you so much for taking some time and being on the show today. I really appreciate it. You can find this interview online with topic quotes and links at theDOcast.net. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hanley's Foods, obviously mine, and the Baton Rouge Startup Weekend happening, I believe, the 19th, the 16th through the 18th. And if you like, please do us a big favor. Head over to that clunky iTunes interface and give us a little review. It helps us out a lot. This is Richard and Holly signing out. Do it big.